Sir, yeah, why not? Let's give it a shot and see what happens. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Welcome to the, believe it or not, 40th Sunday Assembly in San Diego. Woo! Thank you all so much for being here. Before we get started, I do want to make sure you know we have a media-free zone. We are recording this event, so if you do want to be digitally recorded, please have a seat in the selected area. And we'll start off with the inimitable Paul Svensson.
Inimitable. So it was 50 years ago this month that Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band came out. There are probably at least 2 or 3 of us in this room who remember that time. Others have heard of it, and some have even heard the record. So let's all stand up and sing a little song from there just for... Oh, what would you think if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song, and I'll try not to sing out of key. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Get high with a little help from my friends. Oh, I'm gonna try with a little help from my friends. Oh, what do I do when my love is away? Does it worry you to be alone? How do I feel by the end of the day? Are you sad because you're on? Come on now. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Get high with a little help from my friends. Oh, I'm gonna try with a little help from my friends. Do you need anybody? I need somebody to love. Could it be anybody? I want somebody to love. Oh, would you believe in a love at first sight? Yes, I'm certain that it happens all the time. Oh, what do you see when you turn out the light? Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Get high with a little help from my friends. Oh, I'm gonna try with a little help from my friends. Do you need anybody? I need somebody to love. Could it be anybody? I want somebody to love. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Get high with a little help from my friends. Oh, I'm gonna try with a little help from my friends. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. With a little help from my friends.
All right. Thank you, Paul. That was awesome. I cannot sing, but I just love it because it's Sunday Assembly and I get to sing anyways. I'm always so surprised that I don't know the lyrics to these songs that I've been singing in my whole life. But well, this is amazing. This is the 40th Sunday Assembly. We started in 2013 at Balboa Park and the facility there, and here we are 40 assemblies later. That's just amazing. We've been in this building since April of 2014. And we are moving. We're going to go to the 3rd Sunday of the month rather than the 4th Sunday. So 3rd Sunday of the month at 11 a.m. Indoor sports, which is, we have maps and other things to guide you there. We'll be talking about that as we go through the assembly. But it's not far away, and it is a beautiful facility. You're going to love it. And we hope that we'll see you there without any interruption in service and that you can all make it. Sunday Assembly is a secular community that meets monthly to celebrate this one life that we know that we have. We connect, we hear speeches, we connect for community events, we sing silly songs, and we have snacks, but mostly just it's a community celebrating this life. How many of you, it's for the first time, is it your first time at Sunday Assembly by a show of hands? Thank you so much. Give those people a high five. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate to have you here. This is awesome. We do a little thing we call life. One thing I do want to let you know that if you have children age 1.5 and up, and you, I know you love your children, but if you want an hour and a half respite from the kids, we have competent, trained professionals that are watching the children, and they're just right in the other room right there, so they're right next door, and just right in hands reach. And you're always welcome to bring the kids into the assembly. If there's any content that is not kid-friendly, we'll let you know about that right up front. We do a thing we call Life Happens, which is we ask for assemblers to share things in their life. We're a little scant on that today. We only have the one thing, but it's super important. So that makes up for the lack of quantity. It's from Jenn. Her son graduated from high school. So congratulations, Jenn. That's such an amazing thing when that happens. I know, just like you think of your child there in your arms, and they're just this little baby, and then they're up there, and then they're who knows where. And then they're New York. They never cared about you. All right. We're going to start off with a reading. Alicia Palendo will be reading Sleeping in the Forest by Mary Oliver.
Good morning. Sleeping in the Forest by Mary Oliver. I thought the earth remembered me. She took me back so tenderly, arranging her dark skirts, her pockets full of lichens and seeds. I slept as never before, a stone on the riverbed, nothing between me and the white fire of the stars. Among the branches of the perfect trees, all night I heard the small kingdoms breathing around me, the insects and the birds who do their work in the darkness. All night I rose and fell as if in water, grappling with a luminous doom. By morning, I had vanished at least a dozen times into something better.
Thank you, Alicia. That was lovely. Our speaker today is Ryan Bell. He's had a 19-year career as a Seventh-day Adventist pastor due to theological and practical differences in the denomination and his own changing beliefs. In 2014, Ryan launched a blog called A Year Without God, which chronicled his year living as an atheist. Year Without God has been covered by CNN, BBC, the Los Angeles Times, NPR, and Huffington Post, among others. And he's currently an educator, writer, and speaker on the topic of religion, irreligion, and humanism in America. A documentary called A Year Without God, which chronicles his experience with living as an atheist, is in post-production. It should be available to view soon. He's the founder of Life After God and host of Life After God podcast, which you can be found on lifeaftergod.org. And he was one of the speakers here at our conference just last month. We're so pleased to have him back, Mr. Ryan Bell.
Thank you so much, everyone, for having me back. It's so good to be here. I have to unmute this. There we go. I feel like a regular here. So good to see you. Thank you. I have my own guest quarters, not too far from here, and it's fantastic. So it's good to be back. I hope it's not too early in the morning to talk about economics. Can we handle that this morning? And I also lost my glasses yesterday, so I'm going to be doing a lot of this today. So I may not be able to see you, but hopefully I can see my notes. So imagine two people wake up in the same city on the same day, and one of them goes outside and surveys the morning, looks across the tops of the houses to the horizon, takes a deep breath, and notices how beautiful the day is. And of course, a day like today, maybe every single day in San Diego, it's pathetic how great your weather is here. I'm a little irritated about it, but and just, you know, those endorphins hit your brain, and you think, it's such a great day. What an amazing, beautiful day. Same city, same day, different person walks outside, shuffles her feet to the front door, looks down, notices weeds where there should be a garden, the mail from the last 4 days still piled on the front step, and thinks, same shit, different day. God, I just want to go back to bed, right? In fact, what's more is that that's you on 2 different days, right? Like that's not even just 2 different people. That's the same person on different days. What makes the difference? What makes the difference in how you anticipate that day, or how you're feeling, or your ability to appreciate the beauty that is always there, maybe just a little bit out of sight. Think about the last time you experienced a sense of wonder. One of your big themes here is to experience wonder. Think of the last time that you had that experience of awe and wonder, where you just thought, this is too good to be true, right? This is amazing. Take a moment and, call that to mind and think about what it felt like. But more than thinking about what it felt like, think about what the surrounding circumstances were like. You probably weren't in a hurry. You probably weren't late. You probably weren't thinking about the bills that you hadn't paid. You probably were not thinking about that broken relationship that's been stressing you out for the last little while. You probably were just in a different place than thinking about that kind of losses and scarcity. Psychologists have an expression that they use to describe this kind of experience of the world that is available to us and sometimes not available to us. And they use a pretty familiar technological term or a term related to technology called bandwidth. Think about what bandwidth means literally. If you have kids at home or a gamer of any age, and they're streaming some, high-tech game, and you're trying to get your work done on the internet, you may discover that you have a lack of bandwidth. Or, as I'm doing right now, borrowing my neighbor's internet because mine is out, and he's watching Netflix, and I'm trying to record a podcast on Skype. You may find that you have a lack of bandwidth. Or imagine that you're driving down the freeway and you miss your exit. Have you ever done that? Anybody done that? Your familiar exit, like the one that you always get off on to go home, the same exact freaking exit that you always take, and you just go right by it. I did it just the other day. Because you're somewhere else, right? Your mind is so, psychologists call it tunneling. You have such close vision, tunnel vision on whatever is occupying your mind, that psychologists talk about having less mind, like literally having less mind to do the normal tasks of your everyday life. Luckily, our brains are very sophisticated, and we don't have to think, okay, breathe now. Okay, again and again. Like we just do that automatically. And some of these things happen to us, like getting off at the right exit. Sometimes you just drive home when you meant to go to the grocery store, right? Because you just are on autopilot and you're not thinking, and you're so tunneled into whatever is happening in your life. Unsurprisingly, our brains are a little bit like the internet, or maybe the internet is a little bit like our brains, and we have this bandwidth problem sometimes. And what researchers have discovered is that scarcity, economic scarcity especially, affects our ability to access all of our bandwidth. And so there was this one study, and there were so many bits of research that I could share with you, but I wanted to share with you this one study that some researchers did at a mall in New Jersey. They went to the mall, and they just asked random people some baseline questions to kind of assess where they were. And then they said, imagine that you have a car repair that's going to cost you $300, but your insurance will cover half of it. Okay, got it? All right, they're thinking about that. And then they asked them some basic cognitive questions, a cognitive test, to test their ability to process information, think creatively, problem solve, and all the rest. And the rich and the poor did about equally well on those tests. Then they changed the parameters, and they said, now imagine that your car repair is $3,000. And they gave them the same kind of cognitive test, and they found that people's cognitive abilities diminished drastically just at the thought, not even the actuality of a $3,000 car repair, but just at the imagination that you could have a $3,000 car repair. They found that individuals poor individuals had a 13 to 14 point IQ drop just after thinking about that size of an auto repair. I just put some money into my car, so I can, attest to, wasn't quite that much, thankfully, but I know what that's like, and I'm sure you do too, right? You know what that feels like. Poverty limits people's mental space, their ability to experience the good things in life, love and wonder and awe. Wonder is a function of our reflection on our existence, our ability to step back from everything and kind of observe the big picture and say, life is more than my troubles. There's more going on here. And if a person is, persistently unable to pay their bills, struggling financially to pay their rent, provide enough food and care for their family, they literally have no mind left to experience wonder. And so I started thinking about this, and I realized in my own experience and in the experience of people that I know that wonder is a privilege of people that have the mind to take it in, have the space and mental capacity to do that. And it's not about intelligence. It's not about a person's sort of basic cognitive function and cognitive ability. Of course, that would affect things as well, but we're talking about people of equal abilities. And of course, it's also not an absolute truth. It's occasionally possible, right, that a homeless person rolls over on the sidewalk as the sun comes up and says, gosh, it's a nice day, right? Like, that's possible. That's not impossible. But the goal of human thriving should not be to stumble occasionally into a fleeting moment of joy, right? The goal of human thriving should be to cultivate a life in which our minds are able to perceive and respond to the goodness of the world on a regular basis, right? In a way that is enriching to us on a regular basis. So if fostering the sense of wonder at the world is a core value, as I think it is, of humanist communities like Sunday Assembly, I think we would do well to think about how we could remove the obstacles to those experiences as much as we possibly can. We often individualize these challenges, and we tend to think of poverty sometimes as a set of individual choices, and certainly individual choices are a big part of people's experience of either economic success or failure. But we also know, probably most of us from personal experience, that failure in life is not always a result of our own personal choices. You can often make the right choices and still run into problems. I remember my grandparents used to give me a hard time about getting sick. Like, they would banish me to my room like it was a punishment. You know, they probably just didn't want to get sick, and they were trying to, quarantine me or something. But it felt like they were telling me that, I was a bad person because I had gotten the flu. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. People get the flu, right? You don't have to. It's not like I was, out, putting my mouth on drinking fountains everywhere trying to get the flu or something. So imagine if people's material reality had an effect on their experience of the world. And of course, we know that's true. And now there's overwhelming evidence from psychology and brain research that shows that poverty changes our brains, not only temporarily, but can change our brains in the long term, semi-permanently. And so when we invite people to wonder more without considering their material condition, we're asking people in some cases to experience something they may not have the ability to experience in the same way that you can. In fact, we may be judging them based on something that they don't have access to. Like asking a blind person why he doesn't have an appreciation for the sunset that's so obviously beautiful to us, or why a deaf person isn't responding to this amazing concert the way that you might be. When I was a pastor, we did a lot of this kind of work, and we had a slightly different motivation for it, right, as religious folks, but I think the basic impulse is the same, that access to the good life is affected by many things, not just economics, but by many things. And so we did a lot of things to try to ameliorate people's limitations when it came to experiencing the good life. We worked on issues of healthcare, which of course are front and center in our consciousness right now. And one of the big debates that we're having in society right now is whether people's access to healthcare should be based on whether they, are wealthy or poor, or whether they've succeeded in some way in life, or whether they won the lottery and happen to have good genes and don't get sick that often, or whatever else, or whether they, healthcare is something that we should all have a baseline access to, or affordable housing, whether housing is something that everybody should have a right to, or whether some people should just live on the street, and also whether people should get paid fair wages for their work. There's this, persistent myth in society that if you work hard, you'll do well, right? And right. This is. It's many. I don't want to ask you to raise your hand, but how many of you have worked hard and haven't done well, right? Yeah. Maybe even as recently as this morning. So, in fact, a new study came out 2 weeks ago that shows that there are only a dozen counties in our country where a minimum wage job is enough to provide for a one-bedroom apartment. 12 counties, and they're in mostly rural areas. In Los Angeles County, the average one-bedroom requires a $22.98, so basically $23 an hour wages, to afford a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles County on minimum wage. And that's affordability is based off of that rule of thumb, about 30% of your income should go to housing. And so basic people that are working hard at minimum wage jobs can't afford to live. And then we saw last month that the homelessness statistics, that we have 20-some%, I forget the exact number, 22% more homeless people this year than we did last year in the county of Los Angeles. And on top of that, we housed some 100,000 homeless people last year too, right? So it's like one step forward, like 4 steps backwards, as people are just failing to make it in a most fundamental and basic way. And my sense is that any philosophical community, and that might be kind of a highfalutin way to talk about Sunday Assembly, but by philosophical community, I just mean any community that has something to say about what the good life is, right? Any community that wants to weigh in on the question of what is the good life and how should it be lived and what are the possibilities for that good life should also be interested in spending some time thinking about who has access to that good life, and how do we remove obstacles. Not that we can drag people by the shirt collar into the good life, but we could create a situation where some of the obstacles to experiencing that good life have been reduced dramatically, so people can more easily access the beauty and wonder of the world that many of us, have come to appreciate. And in the specific case I'm talking about this morning, people's economic status is significantly important in their ability to experience the goodness that life has to offer. We know that the world is a wonderful place. Nothing we can do, really, can make it more or less wonderful. It's just sort of wonderful all by itself, right? Sun comes up, the tides come in and out, you have a beautiful natural environment, especially here in San Diego. Like, the world is as wonderful as it can be. We could take better care of it and keep it from getting less wonderful, but maybe we just need to find a way to help people experience the beauty that is there. We can understand that the world is not exclusively wonderful. For some people, it's a nightmare, right? People don't see the glass half empty just because they're stubborn pessimists, right? For some people, the glass is half empty, or more than half empty, and they're being optimists to see it half full, right? Like it's 3/4 empty, and they're thinking, well, maybe it's half. And so when we work to remove obstacles to people's experience of the world as a wonderful place that it is, it means that we get involved not just in charity work, which is super important, in helping people in that immediate next step in their life, whether it's that next meal or that next night with sleep or something immediate, which is so important. I sometimes talk about driving down the road and hitting a pothole, right? And you call AAA, and AAA says, you know what you need to do is go down to City Hall and tell your congressperson that they need to, provide more funding for roads. And you're like, yeah, that's great, but right now I'm stuck on the side of the road and I can't get anywhere to, right now. So could you just come fix my tire and then, maybe I'll think about lobbying my elected official for better roads. Both are important, right? We have to be able to do both. And on the side of looking after people's long-term security, it means drilling down into the causes of poverty rather than just constantly trying to fill the hole of, and we saw that with homelessness, just recently in Los Angeles, where people are becoming homeless faster than we can house them. And this is a big problem, and none of us have simple solutions to it. There are no simple solutions to it, but I think it's important for us as people who not only value the good life, but want more people to be able to access that with us, to think about what can we do to reduce these barriers for people to experience the goodness and wonder that is readily available to us. And I'm excited when I think about Sunday Assembly and other congregations that Sunday Assembly could partner with in the community to think creatively of solutions that haven't even been thought of yet, right? That we could say, how as people who value life at its most basic level, what could we do to really not just give people a handout or even a hand up, but an opportunity to really thrive the way we think every human being should be able to thrive. Thanks.
Brian, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for challenging us. Great thoughts. We have a thing we call personal moment. Where it's, basically, it could be anything out of your life. So we're asking you to tell us stories out of your life. Not this time. We have someone for right now. So think about it, though. Everybody has stories. We've heard some great stories. We heard a story from Leah about getting run over by a car and then feeling that she had the need to go vote and continue her trek, stunned as she was. Or Neil, his story about telling his parents that half a donut is how they sold it at the donut store. But we've heard some other things that people are kind enough to share their life with us. So if that's you, if you think about it, please let us know. We'd love to have your moment either with you up here, or if it's too personal and you don't feel like you can get through it, we are happy to have somebody read that for you. So we've done that in the past too. For today, we have our own Jenn Mcgowan, who is going to share a story with us. Jenn?
Good morning. I'm going to talk about my experience with domestic violence today, and there won't be anything graphic, but I know this is a sensitive topic for many people, so feel free to step out if you need to. Am I okay? All right. Okay. I've been practicing really hard to get through this without crying the whole time, so no guarantees, but bear with me. I spent most of my 20s in a controlling, abusive marriage. The only advice anyone ever seems to have for someone in my situation is just to get out, which is not very good or helpful advice. Believe me, we know, and if we haven't, there's good reasons. In November 2003, on my third try, I left the marriage. I got a job, my kids and I moved in with friends. What I didn't understand then, and what so many well-meaning people don't understand, is that leaving is not so simple. It's not a magic bullet, and it's one of the most dangerous times in an abusive relationship. The majority of women killed by their partners have already left or are in the process of doing so. My husband was losing the control he had built over the last 6 years, and he wasn't going to let it go without a fight. Over the next 2 years, things were often worse than they had been during the marriage. I was now a single parent of 2 young children, working a low-wage job with no child support and little emotional or practical support. My ex-husband stalked me, often showing up at the house where I was staying or at my job and making a scene, with the stated aim of making me lose my job and housing. I ended up losing my place to stay. I'm not sure how I didn't lose my job. My kids and I were homeless for 4 months, living out of our car, sleeping on couches and in cheap motels. One by one, the few remaining friends I had fell away because the chaos of my life was too much, or my very favorite, because I was too negative. He became increasingly violent and desperate as he failed to bring me back, using isolation, fear, and humiliation. He was unrelenting. I gave in a lot. I fought back when I could, but I'll always blame myself for not fighting harder. I didn't go back, but I felt like there was no escape. He often told me that he'd kill me one day, and I felt certain that he would. I hid all this as well as I could. Even now, my family doesn't know most of it. In November 2004, he beat me up over some imagined slight. I was lucky, I had no serious physical injuries, but for the first time since I left him, I had visible bruises on my face, visible bruises of what he had done. There was no hiding it. The next day, I called the police, he was arrested, and I got a restraining order. He was released from jail after 3 days, but the restraining order kept him away for a few months, until the judge ordered visitation with the kids. And I was forced to have contact with him again. The violence, manipulation, and control started right back up. I called the police on several occasions, but even with the restraining order, they weren't very helpful. He was a master manipulator, and in their eyes, it was just a domestic dispute, a waste of their time. With each failed call, he got bolder, because there really seemed to be no consequences. The abuse put me in a state of constant instability. The rules were countless and ever-changing and designed to be impossible to follow. What kept the peace and kept us safe one day didn't work the next. We were always walking on eggshells because we never knew what was going to set him off. We never knew when he'd show up and what mood he'd be in when he did. My experiences were invalidated not only by him, but by police and neighbors and acquaintances, even strangers, to the point that I started to question my grasp on reality. He once followed me into the grocery store and threw every item in my cart onto the floor, one by one, while the people around us just kept walking as if nothing was happening. If it was really so bad, someone would say something, or at least get a manager, right? So I must be overreacting, or maybe it's all my own fault. I spent so much energy worrying about every action I took and its possible consequences, just trying to keep myself and my kids afloat and relatively safe, that I had nothing left to improve my circumstances. Over time, my thinking became very distorted, and I bought into a lot of what he told me, and that kept me paralyzed. Almost every day after work, within a minute or two after I got home, he would call. The only possible explanation I could come up with for this was that he was watching, or had someone in the neighborhood that was. And if he was always watching, which he told me he was, that meant I was always in danger and always had to be on my guard. At some point, I had to get a new phone because he smashed the old one into the wall, and the new phone showed missed calls. And on the first day after I got the new phone, he called as usual. But when I got off the phone, I noticed something. There were around 40 missed calls, all from him. He wasn't watching. He was just calling over and over and over again until I got home. The light bulb came on, and this was the first step in breaking the spell. I started to see his inconsistencies and lies for what they were. I felt a little more free. I even made a friend. That clarity and that little bit of support gave me the strength to start fighting back. In August 2005, he broke into my apartment and trashed it while I was away for a weekend. He felt so untouchable, he left a signed note describing what he had done and why. I called the police. I stood up for myself to the officer, whose answer to the problem was better door locks. I called again 2 days later after he came into my apartment at 5 a.m., assaulted me, and held me hostage in my bathroom for 2 hours. This was so normalized to us at this point that I took my kids to daycare, went to work a full day, picked them up, fed them dinner, and then called the police. I called every time he was in violation of the restraining order that week. And the next week, when he went to court to check in for the prior domestic violence charge, there was a warrant for him, and he was arrested. The judge issued a criminal restraining order, which had stronger restrictions and penalties, and cut off all contact, including child visitation. The judge told him that he violated even once, he would make sure he was locked up for the maximum time. He was out of jail in 2 days, sentenced to probation again, but it was over. It's been more than 11 years. I've been diagnosed with PTSD. We've been through a lot of therapy. I live a pretty good life. I have a good job, a stable home. My kids are teenagers and are happy and healthy. By all appearances, I'm a pretty put together and happy person. Sometimes it's hard to believe that that was ever my life. But I struggle. The world and the people in it often feel scary and overwhelming. The depression and anxiety that have always been there are harder to manage. I have a hard time enjoying things. I keep people at arm's length and have few close relationships. I worry about being a burden, about getting hurt, and I don't have much to offer. I'm constantly seeking a sense of security and never finding it. I know part of that security has to come from other people, but I just can't get there. I have so much fear and guilt and shame. It's embarrassing to admit what happened to me and my family, and that I'm still so broken by it. It seems like most people get past this kind of thing, and I don't know why I can't. I worry about the effect the violence and my difficulty coping has had on my children. I've made much more progress in forgiving him than in forgiving myself. But I survived the hard part, and I'm better now than I was a year ago, and certainly better than I was 5 years ago. When I first started coming to Sunday Assembly, I had a hard time even making it through the assembly. Now, somehow, I'm an organizer and a board member, and I'm up here pouring my heart out. Every day, I try to push myself a little further, even when it's scary or painful, and acknowledge that I'm making progress, even though it's slower than I'd like. I have to believe that if I just keep going, things will be okay. Later this year, I'm going to turn 40 and send my older son off to college. For a long time, I didn't believe that I'd be here to see those milestones. But here I am, and that counts for something.
tastes good when you've been camping. Even Spam or trout.
Yeah, I think that's true. One time my dad and my son and I were camping. We were in the mountains of Idaho. I think he was about 6, my son, not my dad. And my dad makes this camp stew. It's 1 can of Dinty Moore stew and 1 can of Hormel chili. And just pour it together and mix that up. And my son, it was the best thing he ever had eaten in his life.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, when we got back, it's the first thing that he wanted to have for dinner was this camp stew. So I made it for him. Yeah, he hated it.
Oh, yeah. I never eat Spam, even in Hawaii. Everybody eats Spam in Hawaii. It's not camping. I do love to get away from the city a little bit, although I love the city. I don't have any problem with the city. Yeah. But sometimes it's nice to get away from all the city lights. We can see the stars and things go like that. It's cool.
Hey, you want to play 20 questions?
Sure.
Okay, because I got a good one that you're never going to guess.
Oh, I'll get it.
No.
Is it an animal?
Nope.
Is it vegetable?
Nope.
Is it a mineral?
Nope.
Is it fire?
Hey, you want to hear a knock-knock joke?
Okay.
Okay, this is my favorite knock-knock joke. Are you
Okay,
ready?
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Knock, knock.
Who's there? I love that one.
Bite me. Okay. What would happen if every particle in the cosmos, every molecule, every atom, every absolutely little particle, everything, froze solid? Would time continue to run with everything frozen?
Dude.
No.
This is so nice. It makes me wonder why people tell ghost stories when you're out camping. I mean, there's nothing scary. Did you hear that?
My dad always used to say, expect the unexpected. But then I started thinking about it, and I thought, if you expect the unexpected, doesn't that make the unexpected expected?
I was not expecting you to say that.
I expect so.
And that's exactly what I expected.
Exactly.
Don't you wonder sometime about sound and vision? I always think about like the color orange, for instance. I mean, you look at the color orange and you see it and you call it orange, and I see it and I call it orange, and I know what it looks like to me, but I don't know what it looks like to you. I don't know what it looks like to anyone else. I don't know what this world looks like to other people. I've always thought about that.
It looks orange.
Right.
Yeah. You ever wondered why carrots are more orange than oranges?
Now I will.
Did you also know that orange doesn't rhyme with anything?
That I did know, yes.
Because you can't use it in a song very much, no. Have you ever tried to spell, see my wife's a teacher, so we talk about teachery things sometimes, and we were talking about phonetics, about teaching. Do you try and spell the word phonetically? It's phonetics.
Phonetics.
Yeah, try and count in phonetics. Oni, 12, 3, Fower, 50, 6, 7, Eiget, Ninny, 10. Stupid phonetics. Jeez.
You know, as a kid, I slept in one room with my brother, and we had a bunk bed, and I slept on the top bunk. And about once a week, I would lean over from the top bunk, and I'd lay my head down, and I'd look up at the ceiling, and I'd pretend the ceiling was a floor, and I'd step over the threshold into the room with a lamp by my feet. It's good to look at the world in a different way sometimes. And I always think about how different people are. I mean, all we are is different. I mean, we have different fingerprints and different skin color and different hair and different eyes. We have 8 kinds of different blood. And every time I meet somebody who's different, feel like I learned something new. I see the world in a different way. It's a good thing.
It's like we all share the same planet, but there are 7 billion people living in 7 billion different worlds in a lot of ways.
My workmate the other day, she said she came to work and she had bad traffic on the way in. She had trouble getting to the parking lot of our work. She got blocked out. It was just a long ride in, and she was in a bad mood, and she was pulling into her parking spot. She has a Prius, so it's a very quiet car, and she was pulling into the person next to her. He had the car door open on the passenger side, and he was rooting around in the back of his car. And she was waiting for him to notice her, and she was edging her way in, and she was kind of irritated by it, she said. And the guy finally acknowledged her and saw her and closed his door, and she moved in. He said, she should have just told me. And she said, oh, that's okay, it's not a problem. And he said, I'm sorry, I was just looking for my wallet. I just want to get something to eat, and I just can't find it. And she said, well, look, don't waste time doing that. Here's a couple bucks. And she gave him some money, so he could go get some food from our food court. And she went to work. And she said she was a little irritated at the thing, but she was happy to help out. She said she got back to her car, there was a note on the window. So she pulled out the note and she read it. She said, the fact is, I didn't have any money and I wouldn't have eaten last night if you didn't give me that $2. I was looking for money in the back of my truck, and thank you. You can't make assumptions about people.
Just try and treat people kindly. I wonder why hard times come to all kinds of people.
Got to take care of each other. You ever notice that the 5-second rule, when somebody drops something, they say 5-second rule, but if they drop it like for longer than 5 seconds, they go, it's a 10-second rule, and then they pick it up and eat it? I mean, they should just say, I don't care that it's got dirt on it, I'm just going to eat it anyways. That's what you should say.
I know, that's great. It's sort of like time is elastic in that moment.
Right, exactly.
I wonder what Einstein would say about that. I had a guy who rented a room from me one time, and I walked in the kitchen, he was digging out half a Del Taco taco that he'd thrown in there the night before in the trash. So I guess for him, the 5-second rule was like 8 hours.
I wonder if you know how great I think you are.
Yeah, I think so.
How do you know?
Because you show me, and you tell me.
It's good. What are you picking at?
Songs that say wonder in them and think about things we're thinking about. I was thinking about Rainbow Connection. Think anybody like to sing it with us?
Oh, I'm sure they would.
Oh, I heard there's so many songs about rainbows, but what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So I've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know the wrong way to see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me, all of us under spell.
And now we'll take a deep breath, and we'll have a moment of silence. I just love the sound of the kids in the other room. It's fantastic. So, some announcements. We'll have the people that are making announcements come on up here. We're going to start out with Mr. Biegelbach, who is one of the people who's organizing this specific event. Aaron?
Howdy, y'all. One day before our next assembly, on July 15th, we're going to be marching and celebrating the San Diego Pride Parade. Yeah, this is like no other experience possible on Earth. It's almost as if you were riding a unicorn over a rainbow into an ocean of glitter and sunscreen. Come join us.
As I mentioned before, we are moving. So you can, what you can do on July 16th, which is our next assembly at 11 a.m., which is the third Sunday of the month, as it will be going forward. You could come here on that Sunday, and then you can follow the arrows to there. Or you could just take the address and go right there. There's parking and everything. It's a great place. We're really excited to be there. I have to tell you, I'm somebody that gets a little attached to things in a sentimental way. I will miss this building, but once we visited a new facility, I knew everything was going to be okay. We love it. I know you'll love it too. Sandra?
And since we are not only moving locations, but also day of the month, we're going to need as much help as we can get, and we're hoping that you guys can help us. So the way that you can help us is by taking a picture in the new location, and then you can post it on social media and tag Sunday Assembly San Diego. Could be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that any of those will work. And then on July, when you go to the assembly, we will give you a Wonder Toad. So please do tag us as many times as you can. And also share and like our post about our new date and our new location so that we can get the word out. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so since we're making you do homework, we'll give you some ice cream. So next time, now that we have a freezer accessible, we're going to go ahead and give everybody some ice cream.
Well, we don't have a slide for this specific one, so this is where Laura go in there. We do have a slide for that. Sorry, Laura. Forgive me.
Sandra is awesome. Sandra does the awesome slides. The lame slides are mine. All the nice slides are Sandra's. So we hosted the 4th International Conference for Sunday Assembly here in the lovely Women's Club a month ago. And for that, we bought a bunch of extra swag. So we have new swag to sell and give us your money, because we're a nonprofit. We do all this stuff, none of us are paid. In the whole world, over 70 assemblies in the world, only 2 people are paid. One of them is one of the founders. So we all do this stuff in between our jobs and whatnot. So we need your money. We take straight up donations, but we also have some awesome swag. We have a brand new car magnet. They printed them wrong, Sandra. So this is our new car magnet. I have 2 of them in my car. One of them I can't get off because Aaron used tape to put it on there for the conference, but I'll get it off. We have a coloring book, Sunday Assembly Adult Stress Relieving Coloring Book. We chose not to do the ones that have the dirty words, right? I think we decided not to. Maybe next year, but these ones are flowers. And Or you can maybe make them in, you can make, that's more my thing. We have something every person in here, I assume, that has a smartphone will need, and that is an extra external battery. Oh, I'm sorry, the coloring book is, the magnet is $5. Big magnet. Coloring book is, I have to look this up because I never remember. The coloring book is, I think it's $10. I don't have it right in front of me. The mobile charger is $15, or 4 for $50. And I can speak from experience that I have like 6 of these in my house, and I don't know where all of them are. So just saying 4 for $50 might get the job done. And the last thing is a picnic blanket. It says Sunday Assembly on it. You have your picnic. You experience your little bit of wonder in Balboa Park, and then you wrap it all up, and then you leave the park excited with your little bit of wonder, and then you go pay your bills. So, new swag, if you want to buy any, I'm going to be in the back. Give me your money, and thanks.
Mine does not have a slide because I did not give Awesome Sandra any notice. We have a harvest crop fruit picking experience this Tuesday. That's in 2 days, and we need a few more volunteers. We're meeting at 6:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. I am so sorry. And we're gonna have an hour of sunlight really to do as fast as we can. The fruit we pick goes straight into food banks, and I used to volunteer at a food distribution, and I've been in the lines with people who see the fresh produce and lose their minds, and all the kids have fruit in line and stuff. So it really is important. We're meeting in Lemon Grove at the McDonald's on Broadway, 6:30, Tuesday, 2 days.
Thank you, and once again, Paul Sensen.
Okay, so before we do anything else here, in the Swagatorium, there are a couple of these devices. This is a CD of mine where I did protest music, because my name's Paul and I'm a folk singer. Everybody say hi, Paul. It's a 12-step group for folk singers here. Anyway, it's protest music. It's all your favorite protest music, if you like any of it. It's Times They Are Changing and Blowing in the Wind and Eve of Destruction and all those, that. And then I also have a collection of old children's folk music. And I didn't produce it. I sat down with a few instruments and I hit record. I tell little stories. I sing little songs from Woody Guthrie and Leadbelly and Pete Seeger and Harry Chapin and all kinds of good people. Kids music for kind of youngish kids. And there's that. If there's some back on the table back there, if you make a donation to Sunday Assembly, you can have one. If you make 2 donations, you can have one of each. Okay? And I don't care how much the donation is. Obviously, we can use the money, but whatever you put, if it's $1 or if it's $100, either way works. $100 is better, by the way, if you can do that. So we're going to learn a new song. Well, we're going to, for some of us, it's a new song. For some of us, it's not. So stay seated for a minute. And the first thing that you need to do is you need to say, hey. Hey! Hey! Okay, so that appears in the song several times. I always want there to be something when we're learning a new song so everybody can participate at some level. Who's feeding back? Sorry. Okay, so, hey. So flip that over. Let's take a look at it. It goes like this. I'm on top of the world. Hey! I'm on top of the world. Hey! Waiting for this for a while now. Paying my dues for the dirt. I've been waiting to smile. I've been for a while. Take me with me if I can. Been dreaming of this since a child. I'm on top of the world. See how that goes? See where the haze go? Okay, let's try and sing it together. I'm on top of the world. Hey, I'm on top of the world. Hey, waiting on this for a while now. Paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting to smile. Hey, hold it in for a while. Hey, take me with me if I can. This since a child. I'm on top of the world. And don't change it yet. Let's go back one. Let's do it one more time. Okay? Can we get it? You guys got it? This is yes? Okay. Then we'll stand up and then we'll sing it like we know it. I'm on top of the world. Hey, I'm on top of the world. Hey, waiting on this for a while now. Paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting. Hey, holding in for a while. Hey, take me with me if I can. Dreaming of this as a child. I'm on top of the world. Verses go like this. If you love somebody, better tell them while they're here, 'cause they just might run away from you. Same tune, next words. You'll never know what went well. Then again, it just depends on how long time is left for you. I've had the highest mountains, I've had the deepest rivers. You can have it all, but not till you lose it. Now take it in, but don't look down, 'cause I'm on top of the world. Hey, top of the world. Hey, waiting on this for a while now. Paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting. Hey, holding it for a while. Hey, take you with me if I can. Been dreaming of this since a child. I'm on top of the world. I think you got it enough. Let's all stand up. I've tried to cut these corners, try to take the easy way out. I kept on falling short of something. I could have gave up then, but then again I couldn't have, 'cause I've traveled all this way. Well, take it in, but don't look down. Here we go. I'm on top of the world. Hey, I'm on top of the world. Hey, waiting on this for a while now. Paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting to smile. Hey, hey, take me with me if I can. Dreaming of this as a child. I'm on top of the world. Oh, oh, try that. Whoa, oh, and I know it's hard when you're falling down and it's a long way. When you hit the ground, so get up now, get up now, get up now. Sing that. And I know it's hard when you're falling down and it's a long way. When you hit the ground, so get up now, get up now, get up now. 'Cause I'm on top of the world. Hey, I'm on top of the world. Hey, training this for a while now. Paying my dues to the dirt. And I've been waiting to see. Hey, for a while. Hey, take me with me if I can. I'm on top of the world. Hey, I'm on top of the world. Hey, waiting on this for a while now. Paying my dues to the dirt. And I've been waiting. Hey, for a while. Hey, take me with me if I can. Dreaming of this as a child. I'm on top of the world. You guys are good learning singers. I'm on top of the world. And I'm on top of the world. Sing it out. I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world.
Paul Svensson. Well, thank you, everybody. That's our sermon today. Greetings and thank you so much, old friends and new, for being here. We are going to stay around and just so many good people here to talk to. So find a partner and talk. We're going to have some snacks. And then we'll have lunch at Pizzicato, which is just walking around the border, maybe for the last time. So please join us. Thank you all.